You keep telling yourself you miss them, but if they walked back into your life today, it wouldn't feel the same. And that's the part you don't like to admit. Because what you really miss isn't just them. It's who you were when they were there. There was a version of you back then that felt lighter. You didn't have to think so much. You didn't have to protect yourself all the time. Things just felt easier. You woke up with something in your chest. Not anxiety, not emptiness. Something good. Even if you couldn't explain it, you had something to look forward to. A message. A moment. A feeling. And without realizing it, you started becoming someone different. More open. More expressive. More like yourself, without effort. You didn't rehearse what you were going to say. You didn't analyze every little reaction. You just existed, and it felt natural. And maybe that's what you missed the most. How natural everything felt. No pressure to perform. No constant self-awareness. No feeling like you had to get everything right. Just you, being you. And now, that version of you feels far away. Not completely gone, but distant enough that you notice it. And sometimes it hits you in random moments. When you hear a song. When you remember something small. When you catch yourself comparing who you are now to who you used to be. And that's where the confusion begins. Because your mind tries to make sense of that feeling. So it goes back to the last place you remember feeling like that. And it connects everything to them. So you say, I miss them. But that's not the full truth. Because if you really stop and pay attention, what you're missing is how you felt about yourself during that time. It's the way you showed up, the way you thought, the way you didn't feel so heavy all the time. That's what stayed with you. That's what your mind keeps going back to. And losing that doesn't feel like losing a person. It feels like losing a part of who you are. That's why it's hard to let go. Because you're not just letting go of someone. You feel like you're letting go of yourself. And no one talks about that part. People say, move on. Like it's just about forgetting someone. But this isn't about forgetting. This is about identity. Because something in you changed after it ended. You became more careful, more quiet, more aware of everything. You started holding things in, thinking more before speaking, second-guessing things you never questioned before. And even when you want to be yourself, something stops you. Something tells you to hold back. And slowly, you became someone you don't fully recognize. Not in a dramatic way, in a subtle way. The kind that creeps in over time. Until one day you catch yourself thinking, why don't I feel like myself anymore? That question hits differently. Because deep down, you know it's true. And your first instinct is to blame their absence. If they were still here, I wouldn't feel like this. But that's where it gets deeper. Because what changed wasn't just your situation. It was how safe you feel being yourself. After something meaningful ends, your brain doesn't just move on. It protects. It adjusts. It makes sure you don't open up the same way again. Not fully. So you become more controlled, more guarded, more distant without even noticing. And that version of you feels unfamiliar. So you look backwards. Because backwards feels like the last place you felt like you. And you confuse that feeling with the person. But let me ask you something. If you could feel exactly the same way again, that same energy, that same confidence, that same version of you, but with someone else, would you still miss them the same way? Or would something shift? That question changes everything. Because it forces you to see what's really happening. You're not just attached to them. You're attached to a version of yourself that you haven't felt in a while. That's what you're really missing. Not the person. The version of you that existed with them. And here's the part most people never realize. They didn't create that version of you. They didn't build it. They didn't give it to you. They just made you feel safe enough to be it. That version was always there. They were just the environment where it came out. And when that environment disappeared, you didn't lose yourself. You just stopped accessing that part of you. Because now, you don't feel safe showing it the same way. So instead of reconnecting with yourself, you keep trying to reconnect with the past, replaying memories, revisiting conversations, holding on to moments that felt real. Even the small ones, the ones that didn't seem important at the time, but now mean everything, not because you want them back, but because you want that feeling back, that version of you back. But the more you search for it in the past, the more distant it feels in the present, because you're looking in the wrong place. What you miss is not behind you. It's within you. It's just buried under everything you built to protect yourself. The hesitation, the overthinking, the emotional distance. All of it makes sense, but it also keeps you stuck, because you're trying to feel alive again, without allowing yourself to be vulnerable again. And those two things don't work separately. At some point, you have to stop trying to find yourself in someone else, and start allowing yourself to come back. Not all at once. Not perfectly. Just little by little. Being a bit more honest. A bit more open. A bit more like you used to be, before you started holding everything in. And when you do that, something shifts. Not instantly, but gradually. You start to feel pieces of yourself again. In small moments. A conversation where you don't overthink. A reaction that feels real. A moment where you feel present again. And then you notice something. You don't miss them the same way anymore. Not because they didn't matter, but because you're no longer trying to find yourself in the place where you lost them. You're finding yourself again on your own. And that changes everything. Because now, you don't need someone else to feel like yourself. You don't need someone else to access that version of you. You are that version. You just forgot for a while. And this time, you don't lose yourself just to feel something again.